Hi, today's video is still focused on special right triangles, but we're going to look at the application problems, some word problems. So starting off, Mr. Math is laying on the ground flying a kite. So he was too lazy to stand up. He's laying down on the ground. There he is. He's laying down and he's flying a kite from the ground. He looks up to see his kite at an angle of elevation of 30 degrees. So he's got this string, he's got this kite. There's the string, here's his kite, and we have an angle of elevation, which means that we are creating this triangle. The angle of elevation is from his line of sight up. So this is going to be our 30-degree angle of elevation. This is going to be the horizontal drop, which means that's going to be a right angle. If the kite string that Mr. Math is holding is 60 feet long, which means we're looking right here, this is the string that he's holding, that's 60 feet long, then how high above the ground is the kite? So now we're looking at this distance right here. How far above the ground is that going to be? It is really important that we draw our diagram so that we can visually see how everything's related, where things go. And then we want to round our answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. So we have our picture. We've got our right angle. We've got our 30-degree angle. That means that this is going to be 60. If that's 60, that means that we have a special rights triangle. Remember, step 1 is to label the pattern. Across from 30 is L, across from 60 is L root 3, and across from 90 is 2L. So we look to see what we are given. We are given that 2L is 60 feet. We find out what L is, and that means that L is 30. Now we have to see which part of our triangle are we actually looking for. We want to find out how far above the ground is the kite, which means this is our X, which is representing the L portion of our pattern, which means that this is going to be 30. So our kite is 30 feet above the ground. All right, then next one. From the top of a lighthouse that is 200 feet tall, you see a boat in the water. The angle of depression is 30 degrees. How far is the boat away from the base of the lighthouse? Again, pictures are super important. So here is our lighthouse. And we've got water, and we've got a boat out in that water. We were told that the lighthouse itself is 200 feet tall, and there's a person looking at the boat. So here's our person. When we have angle of elevation, angle of depression, which we're going to look at more closely at the end of the chapter, angle of elevation is from the line of sight. So here's our line of sight straight out. If we're looking up from there, it is elevation. And if we're looking down, it's the angle of depression. But all of these are based on the line of sight. So our angle of depression is 30 degrees. Now the problem with the angle of depression is it's outside of the triangle. We are looking at this triangle right here to see how far away our boat is. And that 30 degrees is outside the triangle. Biggest mistake is putting that 30 degrees right here because that's not where it goes. Now, if we remember parallel lines, our line of sight is going to be parallel to the horizon, which is going to make this angle congruent to this angle. So we're going to put that 30 degrees right inside of that triangle there. We now want to find out how far away that boat is. We have, this is our 30, this is our 60, this is our 90. We label our pattern. Across from 30 is L, across from 60 is L root 3, and across from 90 is 2L. So the good news is that we were given L. L is equal to 200, so then we can just plug that in. If we're looking for this X down here, that means that's 200 root 3. So the boat is 200 root 3 feet away. All right, our last question for today's video. A square has a diagonal with a length of 10 root 2. Find the perimeter of the square, give the exact answer. So the key here is a square. We know all about squares. We learned all about squares in our quadrilateral unit. If I have a square, One, we know all four sides are congruent. We know all four angles are right angles. We know that if I draw a diagonal in, which it says I have a diagonal with a length of 10 root 2, that diagonal is going to bisect that angle into a 45-45 angles, which is now giving us a special rights pattern. Now I have a 45-45-90 triangle. So I'm going to label my pattern. The congruent legs are S and S, and this is S root 2, which isn't bad. We are given the pattern piece that S root 2 is equal to 10 root 2. And if S root 2 is 10 root 2, that means S is 10, which makes this 10. And because it's a square, that makes all sides of our triangle, or that makes all sides of our square 10. So we've got 4 congruent sides of 10. So our perimeter is 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, or we know that's 4 sides of 10, giving us a perimeter of 40. All right, so it's important that we remember those properties of a square and that we can create those 45-45 special right triangles. That's it for today.